I'm Julien Hoez. Welcome to La Dépêche, and I'm happy to be here with you guys right now. As you know, I'm trying to do these more regularly, try to do these quick and dirty and shorter and go through the nitty-gritty as quick as we can. And subtext recording system doesn't really work. I'm trying to get a few more subtitles into the things that we're doing here so people can see them easier after the fact. And so we'll do this as a live and see how this plays out and how this works. But Trump has pushed back the deadline yet again. Why? Because he's not getting any concessions. He doesn't want to endanger his midterm score in the upcoming elections because he knows that the Republicans are already getting hammered. He doesn't want to deploy US citizens because that's going to damage his reputation even further, and he's already deeply unpopular. He doesn't really want to just come out and say, hey, I fucked up, I'm backing out because Trump is an egomaniac. And on top of that, Iran's not going to give up. Iran's not going to quit. Iran's not going to stop. So, what happened? Iran has suggested, or they haven't suggested it, they've given Trump their negotiating points, a 10-point plan to end the war, because Iran's not going to stop until they come out of a victory, or unless it goes into a status quo situation and Trump just eats a loss and accepts he screwed everything up for everybody for no reason. Now, what are these 10 points, which came after the White House backed down on the threat from Trump to erase Iranian civilization, which is obscene? Firstly, the lifting of all primary and secondary sanctions on Iran, continuing the Iranian control over the Straits of Hormuz, US military withdrawal from the Middle East in its entirety, an end to attacks on Iran and its allies, the release of frozen Iranian assets, and a UN Security Council resolution making any deal binding. And there's also the most important point, which makes this whole farce even more of a shit show, is the fact that the Americans would be expected to accept the enrichment of uranium for an Iranian nuclear program. Now, this is potentially the biggest geopolitical screw up in the last 50 or 60 years. This is worse than Iraq. This is worse than Afghanistan. This is one of the most ridiculous situations we've gone into. Not only did Donald Trump tear up the negotiated agreement between Obama, Iran, and the European partners for no reason other than his own ego and the fact that he thought that he could do better than Obama. Spoiler, he can't. But he has basically started a war that he can't win. He has started a war that has basically done nothing but weaken the West and weaken American interests in the Middle East and weaken the global economy. He started a war that has given Iran the ability to produce more money, and I mean an astronomical amount of money, to weaken Western interests in the region, to harden the positions of those who are anti-West and anti-America in countries like Iran, and in general has just messed everything up. And the fact that we've gotten to a stage now where Donald Trump's dementia-riddled politics and his geopolitical incontinence is leading to the fact that the Iranians are now pushing to be allowed to enrich nuclear uranium and other materials that will allow them to create a stronger nuclear program, tells you everything you need to know about the situation. And again, this meme that we've had going on for the last year now, Trump always chickens out or taco, is becoming more and more and more obvious. And we have to take a step back from the Middle Eastern situation, the fact that this is just a loss for the West and the United States, because the United States aren't going to come through here unless they put boots on the ground. They're not going to do it because Israel doesn't want to back them up, because the West doesn't want to back them up, because it doesn't make sense and is suicidal. Think of who benefits from this situation. The Iranian regime's main allies are Russia and China. Now, China benefits in any way from anything that weakens the dollar, from anything that weakens the United States' power globally, from anything that weakens the West and transatlantic ties, and what have you. Russia benefits from anything that allows them to keep pumping oil and selling oil globally. Russia also benefits from the fact that if the Iranians have more money, they can put more money into the development of the Shahed drones or the equipment that they're sending over to Russia in the Russian war in Ukraine. Top of that, if the US continues to entrench itself back home and keeps being forced out of regions and keeps pulling back and putting itself into the trenches and becomes isolationist, that helps Russia, that helps China. Who that doesn't help is Ukraine, the pro-Western Middle Eastern states, the European Union, the European states that aren't linked to Russia or China, and in general, anybody who doesn't form part of this axis of authoritarian or anti-democratic slash illiberal group of unions. This benefits the BRICS. This benefits anybody who is not linked to the US, who is not linked to the European Union, and in general, anybody who benefits from a weakening of the Western hegemonic order that we see today. And this is what is getting increasingly frustrated when dealing with these kind of geopolitical situations. And this is why I really wanted to do a Dépêche here today, because this is going to have massive ramifications. Everybody thinks that because of the 2-week period of negotiations, that everything's going to cool down a bit, everything's go back to normal. No, the Iranians bombed the Israelis within 30 minutes of this ceasefire for negotiations being set up, and the Israelis bombed them back. Not only that, but plenty of ships have tried to cross the Strait of Hormuz recently, and they're being turned away by the Iranian regime. And those who are passing through, we don't know if they're being let through, like the French ship last week, because there's some kind of agreement between the member states or the state in question and Iran, or because they're already paying this large fee that has been quoted as between $1 million to $2 million per ship. And now, this is something that we need to drill down to as well. And this is something that a lot of people aren't picking up on and are kind of ignoring. The reason why the funding of Iran through the Hormuz Strait blockade or the toll system is so severe is because the Hormuz Strait is the single most frequented body of water for trade in the international context in the world. It's the quickest way to get from Asia to Europe, from Asia, I think, even to America. In certain contexts, I think if you're looking at Western Asia, and from the Middle East to America as well. And now think of the sheer number of earnings that are possible even if it's just 300 ships a day, which I don't know the figures off the top of my head. I think it's a bit large what it is, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility. That's something around $600 million going into Iranian and Omanian coffers on a daily basis. That is insane. That is categorically insane. Think of how much money is going to be put towards the liberal causes and the war against Ukraine and the proxies across the Middle East and Africa and Asia and where have you. Think about the sheer damage that this is going to do to international security purely because we're giving all of this money to a regime that, let's remember, is radical in all the worst ways that give these far-right actors in the US nightmares. Like, these are literally the Islamic extremists that the US is constantly pretending to fight against, that are going to benefit from the fact that the US has created such a fucking mess that they can only create a situation where we give the Iranians money. Because let's face it, guys, this is maybe a bit pessimistic on my side, but let's be entirely honest, why be positive here? There are two solutions to the situation. And if anybody else has any ideas here about another solution to the situation, please, I'm all ears. Drop it in the comments. I'll discuss it quickly as well. One is that you basically just create a military coalition, go in and remove the entirety of the government and the IRGC, and basically replace the entire civil structure and the religious structure and the military structure with something that's less linked to the religious leadership in Iran, less revolutionary and more Western. That's not going to happen. Israel doesn't want to do it. Europeans don't want to do it. The Asians don't want to do it. Russia sure as hell doesn't want to do it. So that leaves America. And does America really want to go and get involved in a boots on the ground war after Afghanistan, after Iraq? Will Trump do that knowing that he will get absolutely massacred in the midterms? Will he do that knowing that he's already going to get impeached? If the midterm results go as they are projected to go, with a complete crash out for the Republicans and a majority for the Democrats, everybody's getting impeached. Everybody that can be impeached in the US is getting impeached in the US government. Like this de facto. And so Trump isn't going to put boots on the ground. And the other alternative is just that the Iranians win. The Iranians do what they want, they keep making money, and that's not necessarily tolerable to other people either, because it creates an inherent imbalance when it comes to the geopolitical situation, the financial situation of the global economy, because lots of countries are going to lose a lot of money, and a lot of companies cannot pay fees up to $2 million because many are running several ships and trying to actually develop something. And on top of that, you leave yourself open to blackmail. The Iranians can go, oh, we don't like what you're doing we don't like the fact that Ukraine's winning in Ukraine. So what we're going to do is any European Union ship has to pay more or gets blocked entirely. Whoops. And so all of this to say is that because of Donald Trump being an incompetent, because of Donald Trump chickening out, I'll learn to speak English one day, chickening out yet again for the 8th time or the 9th time or the 10th time, I've lost count at this stage, because he keeps making these extremely aggressive threats, these extremely vulgar comments like erasing the Iranian civilization if they don't capitulate to him, then backing out and then begging later on down the line. There's no positive resolution to the situation. Donald Trump has created a situation where America can only lose. And a big part of this, as I mentioned in the last Dépêche, comes down to one of my favorite theories in international relations, which is securitization. In that Trump has created this situation where he has made Iran such an existential issue for the Republicans and for the US. And he has burnt so much money on this war that he physically can't back out. And so now they're stuck in this loop where nothing is going to change, nothing is going to get better, nothing is really going to improve. And now everybody's going to have to suffer. Your gas prices, your oil prices, the price at the pump when you're filling up your car, the price of your daily shop, the price of your groceries, the price of your tech, the price of everything you own, because the oil shortages are going to keep coming and they're going to keep happening, are all going to go up. Like for those of you who are in Belgium, like me, we're screwed because this government's as competent as the Americans. If you are in a country that doesn't have its own inherent sustainable agricultural sector or has any kind of dependency outside of your country on certain key foods, materials, equipments, what have you, your prices are going to go straight up. Everything is going to get more expensive everywhere. It's already hit Asia, and we've already seen most of the countries out there starting to either put in place or consider mandates to reduce fuel consumption by increasing working from home mandates, closing schools early, telling companies to shut down for a bit, mandating holidays. Europe is expected to hit this point within the next 2 weeks, even if there are going to be some gas and oil shipments, even if there are going to be some fertilizer shipments, even if there are going to be a few things here and there that are going to leak through once or twice, as with the French ship that came through last week, in 1 or 2 weeks, you're going to start seeing prices going up. That's it. And on top of that, the US is going to get hit sometime at the end of this month, beginning of May, according to projections in general. So, why? Because Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing. Donald Trump has actively gone out of his way, only because of his own ego, along with his friend who's an alcoholic, and along with his vice president who's a completely clueless loser, who is playing cosplaying nonsense in Hungary, everything's going to get more expensive. You're going to be poorer. Your life's going to get worse, quite frankly, and we can all thank Donald Trump. And honestly, it's not going to get better. I mean, this is a bit of a pessimistic note to end on, and I want these Dépêche videos to be a bit more positive in general. But really, Trump chickening out or in Iran, Trump giving up on his plans, Trump going in without a plan in the first place and then making it up as he goes along, is just a catastrophic failure of policy. You go back to the realists, you go back to the liberals, you go back to the utopianists, the constructivists, whoever you want to read to when it comes to international relation policy, not a single person, not even Mearsheimer, will be able to tell you that anything that happened today made any sense whatsoever and was good. And let's face it, Mearsheimer pretended that the war in Ukraine was a good idea and Putin playing the blinder. So, you know. But guys, thank you for tuning into this Dépêche. Again, let me know what you guys think of these videos. I've gotten some good feedback so far, but I'm trying to develop more of an understanding of whether these are the kind of videos you guys like to see, whether you guys are enjoying these videos, whether you guys are getting the information you want, whether you guys want me to go less in depth or more in depth, to keep these shorter or longer or whatever you want. And really, if you have any questions or topics you want to have answered in these videos, send them my way. You have my emails, you have Substack, you have Twitter, you have Blue Sky, you have Instagram, you have LinkedIn. Find me somewhere, send me a message and say, hey, I want to know about, what is the French position on Iran? What is the German position on not having any power generation whatsoever? Why are the Japanese so concerned about Trump? Why is China freaking out about Siberia? Why do frogs exist? Tell me what you want to find out about. Tell me what you want to discuss. Tell me what you want to do, and we can make that happen. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Share the video if you're listening to this after the fact. Subscribe on Spotify, Substack, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever. Share it with your friends, put it out there, and yeah, happy to do this with you guys. Happy that this seems to be attracting some good attention from some people. And really, let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys want. And aside from that, have a great day. Have a great evening. And just look after yourselves. And if you're sick and tired of Trump's nonsense, write to your local MPs, write to your MEP, write to your senator, to your whoever. Get involved in politics. Speak your mind. Make sure people know how you feel. And start pushing some levers, because political participation is important and it does make a difference. But thank you very much, everybody.